Greetings and welcome. It's good to be with you again this week. Our theme for today will be on betrayal and abandonment. Two very heavy themes. But I picked these themes because I think it's important for us to realize that God, that Jesus, whom we believe to be fully human as well as fully God. So this is the human Jesus that we see. And we're looking at Jesus in the garden, and we're looking at Jesus on the cross. And when Jesus was in the garden, his disciples went with him. And Jesus asked them, would you stay up with me, keep me company? And the disciples all said, sure, we'll do that. And Jesus went off by himself to pray to his Father. And we know from the scriptures that Jesus' time in the garden was very painful because he was really dealing with and accepting his imminent death. And when he came back to see the disciples, they had fallen asleep. And that happened 3 times to Jesus. Jesus, there was a betrayal there. They promised to stay with him, and they were not able to do that for whatever reason. And so Jesus suffered in the garden alone because his friends were not able to sit with him. And there are many reasons of why that might have happened. Jesus was abandoned or felt abandoned when he was hanging on the cross, and he prays to God this deeply moving, just one short sentence, Father, why have you abandoned me? And there's several musical settings for this, and all of the musical settings that I've ever heard, it's such a plaintive note, just this pleading coming from a heart that is full of fear and sadness and what's going to happen to me, which is very, very human. So we see abandonment and we see betrayal. Betrayal in the garden, abandonment when Jesus was on the cross. Now these are things that Jesus was feeling, not necessarily what was happening. God never abandons us, ever, 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 ever. And so as we reflect on this, who is God? God is ever present. Ever present. No matter what we feel, God is always by our side. And the disciples, this may have been too heavy for them to deal with. And so they took care of themselves in the only way they knew, which was to go to sleep. And so in these two experiences of Jesus, we see a human Jesus who is suffering, who is abandoned, left alone by his friends. And we see Jesus who feels abandoned by his Father, God, to whom he offered his entire life of ministry, whom he loved more deeply than anything. And so we see a God in Jesus who is willing to suffer, who is willing to go through what is most painful. And so I invite you to reflect this week on what do you learn about yourself as you reflect on the fact that Jesus suffered betrayal and abandonment. I wish you blessings, and may your reflections this week be full of grace for you.